January the 25th, the quorum being present. I'd like to review over the two sets of minutes. We have two sets of minutes for November the 30th and December the 28th. We'll take them individually as a vote. If you could review the minutes for November the 30th, please. Motion to approve or change the minutes for November the 30th.
Motion to approve.
You have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Aye. Second.
Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Move on to December the 28th regular minutes, if you would. Review and suggest any changes or comments.
Make a motion, we accept the minutes as submitted.
You have a motion to accept the minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have 2 seconds. You get that, Bruce? Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carries. Moving on to new business. Side yard variance, front yard variance, and special exception for the commercial use of an industrial zone for a proposed supermarket to be located at 410 Digby Cannon Street. Property zoned I1, property owned by Andrew Bozek, and applicant is Kelly Motion. Mr. Green.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The applicant has requested a change of use for the property, which required the site plan be submitted to the Planning Commission, and in doing so, they also had to have the special exception for the commercial use in the industrial zone. They've also got a few existing conditions with this current site. With the change of use, it changes their use, or it's no longer non-conforming. So what they would have to do in order to do that is request the front and side yard variances to accommodate the existing use. The first of the requests is a special exception for the commercial use in the industrial zone, which is item number 1 on your all's reports. This is a fairly common request. It just allows that type of use, which would be retail, grocery, in I-1 zone.
Comments or questions from the board?
Grant, I went over there and looked at this area. In looking at it, it looks like it would be okay for what they're wanting to do. Or do we have any other concerns?
Well, and that's one of the things in our report we had noted, this has been revised several times, and the site plan that's been submitted it kind of functions for both this special exception request and the Planning Commission site plan request. So you all can look at that and kind of see what your thoughts are on it. One of the things, we don't have an updated copy of the PDF. The one that we have, the updated copy of the site plan we received shows some additional buffering in this area. They've shown considerable additions to the pines and some of the required shrubbery and the required canopy and understory trees in the rear of the property. And what they have proposed is a significant addition to what they have in it already, which they already have several trees in the back. The reason that I bring that up is the adjacent property owner has complained in the past about the lack of buffer with the property to the south of that. So with what they're proposing to add, that does come much closer to meeting that requirement. And given the existence of the existing trees in that buffer, it is very difficult to meet the requirement per the requirement because they're scattered around. You know, the existing trees are not really in a uniform buffer as you'd see normally. So it's kind of probably the best way they can address it given the existing trees there. So it doesn't meet the requirement per se, but it is a significant addition to that buffer requirement. I guess as far as the other concerns that we had is they have added with this latest revision that they've provided us, they've added some showed their parking requirement. What they had previously was far in excess of what's necessary. So they do far exceed that parking requirement, which is good. They've also added some shrubs to meet the per acre landscaping requirement. And I guess the only thing in the back, we had some concerns with the dock doors and the entrance and exit doors in the rear of the building. And they did add a note stating on the back, or stating that the parking spaces in the rear of the building, this is note number 9 on your all's plans, that will all be used for limited employee use in order to facilitate deliveries when needed. That's something I have told the applicant. I told them that we'd preferred that they have that area striped out, which we spoke to them. I spoke to them today about that. It'd be better just to have that striped out, just so that it doesn't cause an issue. But which they said if the planning commission wants them to stripe it out, they'll stripe it out. They thought that might address it, but we can work with them on that. However it needs to be done. So other than that, I think that pretty much takes care of that.
So Grant, on the side yard variance, the plan we're looking at is dated the 24th. The dwarf Chinese holly trees, are they going to extend all the way to the back of the property, or there's going to be a gap between the existing building and onto the other building? Is that going to be a clear shot through there? Is there anything we put through there? There's a
On the north side of the property?
North side of the property, so south 8930. It's showing you have some existing pavement to be removed by applicant. Dwarf Chinese hollies are going to put in. They're showing 6. From the 6th tree going backwards, is there nothing there between there and the back of the property?
About midways, what they've done on this site plan is some of the existing trees that are on the property, they've shown that it's kind of a faded. They're showing the trees to be kind of faded in order to kind of differentiate the new trees from the old trees. There are looks like some elms and hackberries, which it's not really the greatest of trees, but they are existing trees, and they do provide a adequate buffer. Those trees start about midways down the side of the property, but there is a gap between that. I guess it should be noted that Metromont is the north, the property owner to the north, so I don't think they have any type of buffer between them, and they're a more land-intensive use, I guess you could say. And I don't think they have any buffer at all. I think I have some pictures maybe that shows that a little better. This is where they're proposing to take out this pavement that encroaches into the side yard and on the property line. And they'll be proposing to add the shrubs in this area.
So that white building is Metromont.
Yeah, it's part of the Metromont property. Yes, ma'am. And this is some of the existing trees in this area right here. So it looks like, going by this, it looks like it's a little further back than Midway's, but it is some screening on the side as well. It's limited.
Moving on to the parking, the parking calculation is for all 3 units, A, B, and C.
Yes, yeah, what they have shown us, and this is what, I've discussed this with them as well. They were showing parking in excess that their old parking calculation they used was based on the additional 8,000 square feet, the other 2 units. They had shown it being based on that all being office and or retail, which what they're showing us right here is just proposed to be warehouse, and given that warehouse uses don't require that much parking. So what they've amended this to show is 18 required spaces, and they're showing, I think, 38 on the plan in the site data chart, but it's I think it's actually more like 40, because I don't think they counted the handicap spaces.
But they're only showing 2 ADA car parking spaces.
Yes, sir, it's 1 per 25, so that does meet the requirement. I think it's for the first 100, it's 1 per 25.
So that's where you're recommending that they stripe out, this is employee, per item number 9, they're going to take care of that as far as loading.
Well, and that's one thing that you all may want to look at, possibly making a condition of the special exception, or however you all would like to approach it. What they have noted on number 9 is that it will be used for employee parking. So essentially what they're saying is, with the spaces in the rear, they'll have control over who parks there, and they'll be able to move the cars. I was just kind of, what we had talked about with them before, and I think, you know, they're okay with however it's done, is just striping out this area instead of making it parking spaces, so that it's dedicated for deliveries.
Yeah, the problem I got with that, it's going to be problematic, because if they make that, I mean, I understand making it employee only, but, you know, God forbid, what if there is an emergency, and that particular employee is the emergency, and he's got his car parked in front of the door? So I think striping out will be, I mean, that'll solve that problem. I don't think they're going to be able to do a parking lot with even employees.
And I think if that's the wishes of the board, it's probably best if during site plan approval, if you make that a condition of your approval, if we get to that point.
Yeah.
You know, special exception we'll treat separately, and then once we get to the site plan at planning commission portion of it, if you want it like that, then make the condition of the approval is that they stripe that out, because they should have significant parking still above and beyond what's shown as being required.
So on the special exception though, the enter-only entrance, I mean, on the exit, you have a 36-foot exit. On the enter-only, it'd be very difficult to get a long vehicle in there, I believe. Have we looked at that? Doesn't it give a dimension of 13.35?
Yeah, it is smaller for what I think they intend to do is use the adjacent property to as well, to, since it's basically a shared access, but I do, you know, provide, if that property's ever redeveloped, you know, we would run into some issues potentially, and that's a very valid point, Mr. Coates.
If they lose the one car parking spaces, they still meet the intent of the requirement of the parking?
Yes, yeah.
Because you're exactly right, if the other property does sell and changes use, then we're stuck with what we approved, or may approve here this evening.
In the workshop, did we discuss the fire marshal's comments?
Yes, I'd spoken with him, I think it was last month when this went through. Nothing that's really changed on this would affect what he looks at, except for possibly the rear, and that's kind of where it's not only the dock doors, but it's the, and Kyle and I have discussed this too, and he actually brought this point up, the doors, having a car parked right up next to the door. If the door opens outward, that could cause a major problem, particularly with the fire marshal. And I don't think that particular point has been discussed with him, but before they get their CO, he has to inspect it, and he would have to give his approval to anything. So I think the striped area in those spots would only help his cause as well.
Other questions on the board? We have the applicant here, I believe. Any questions? With that, we have three on the table there. Let's take them one at a time. So we'll take an accept and deny for the side yard variance. Motion for or against?
Just for clarification, Mr. Chairman, we're going to do side, front, special exception?
Correct.
Okay.
Before we get the point, let me just bring up, is there anyone from the audience like to speak on this matter before we move on to the votes? Step to the podium and raise your right hand and be sworn in, if you would, please. State your name for the record.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board, I'm Steve Steele with Huddleston Steel Engineering in Murfreesboro. I'm representing the applicant, Mr. Kelly Motion, who's here, and his associate, Misha Namath.
Just swear you in, Bruce.
Oh, certainly.
Yes, do you swear promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Sorry. Not familiar with that protocol. But we have worked closely with Grant and Kyle and have tried to address all their comments. We feel like we have addressed most, if not all. The few things that you mentioned tonight, we'll be glad to take care of. We'll be glad to stripe behind the delivery doors at the back and guard what I would call a man door, but the pedestrian doors at the back also. That side, that southerly entrance that we dimensioned like 13 feet, that is a joint access. On the other side, there's, I forget what the dimension is, but together it's like 30 feet wide, plenty adequate. And so we were just hoping to leave that as it was today. But I'd be glad to address any other questions you all might have or concerns.
One question, the back door again, that would still be just for employees? There wouldn't
Yes,
be
sir.
any-
Yes, sir.
Okay.
No, in fact, the applicant is planning to redo the facade on the northerly unit where the grocery store will be. He will take out that garage door, that man door, if you will, and put up a grocery store facade, which will have a double in-swinging door to allow people to come in and out. And that's where all the customers will be directed.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
With that, I'll take a motion to accept or deny. For side yard variance. Take these
I
one
make
at
a
time.
motion that we accept the number one side yard variance as submitted.
Okay, we have a number one for a side yard. Do I have a second?
Second.
You have a second? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. We'll take a number 2 for a front yard variance. Take a motion for or against.
I make a motion for a front yard variance as submitted.
I'll take, there's a motion for a front yard variance. Do I have a second?
I second.
You have a second? Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Third special exception for the A1 zoning. A motion for or against.
Now, Mr. Chairman, I got one question on that. Is that going to be with the planning commission where we get the,
If we approve the special exception, then it moves on to the planning commission to decide for the rest of
and
the
then we
issues.
do the rest? What, I make a motion we accept, we approve it.
We have a motion to approve the special exception. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, moving on to 2. Front setback variance, front yard variance, side variance, rear yard variance, and landscaping variance, dustless pavement variance, and self-storage warehouse setback variance for proposed self-storage warehouse facility to be located at 287 Sand Hill Road, property owned by G&CB Enterprise LLC. Mr. Green.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. This is some of the same, well, these are all the same requests that the Board of Zoning had received. I guess it was early last year, and I believe they were all denied. Didn't have the applicant show up, and this is just the basically a re-request of that. He has actually deferred this, and I think he had several issues, and as we know, and he's trying to redo his plans to try to address some of these items, so he's deferred.
Okay, so we're written for a deferral. Okay, any other comments or suggestions from this board? That call meeting adjourned.